Welcome to the party, pal. You're for the neighborhood Master Chaos. Back with you once again for another episode of HOLLYWEIRD. We've got a very special guest with me, Mr. Jeff Mandel, the director of the craziest Christmas movie ever made, Elves. Jeff, how are you?
Elves. Yes, I'm doing good. I just made it. I was downtown to see a guy and just got back and sat down in time to log in, and here we are.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you made it, my friend. We're very happy to have you here, and very excited to talk about Elves and potentially the future of Elves and Robo Chick, of course. Can't forget Robo Chick.
So now,
so let's drunk Santa. Yeah, we'll talk all about the behind the scenes, the glory of the making of those films.
There's so much that that I would be commenting long after the movie is gone. So it's better that we get a lot of stuff out of the way today.
Exactly, because for those of you who are just joining us and don't know, tomorrow, Saturday, 3 p.m. PST, we're going to be watching Elves right here with Jeff. We're going to have live commentary from the filmmaker, and you get to ask him all your burning questions. If you've not seen the movie, watch the movie, and then I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. And that'll be a really kind of unique experience to be able to pick his brain. And we'll take pauses between the movie, throughout the movie, and we'll talk and we'll try to unpack the mystery that is Elves.
So it's no mystery, but yeah, we'll do that. That's actually very interesting. Oh, it's like doing a question and answer after a screening. I feel I've arrived finally after 40 years, 30 years.
There you go. It only took that long.
I do want to apologize. I'm getting over Bell's palsy, and this part of my face is paralyzed. So I'm not being a tough guy. Yeah, you see, that's just the way that the face works. Enough said.
It's fine. Before we do that, let me just look at this. I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on this real quick while I let the chat room fill in here. The new partner label month has begun here at Vinegar Syndrome. Here are the new releases. For me, I'm grabbing Treasure of the Ninja. Of course I am. Look at this thing. You get 2 films and a whole bunch of short films from Mr. William Lee. That is available now. Something that's selling out real fast, if you're interested in getting, is something that just dropped. I'm getting this. It's called Mail Order Murder, the story of Wave Productions. This sounds like a blast. It's a behind-the-scenes story of a sort of a shot-on-video company. Featured a lot of films starring this lovely lady, Tina Kraus. She's interviewed in the documentary as well. And you get a secret movie with it. So keep that in mind. Then a couple of other releases here, Altered Innocence and Alleluia. This is essentially a German remake of Honeymoon Killers, if you know that film from Criterion. So that's the partner label month. That's pretty much all I'm going to give it. But I did grab Treasure and Mail Order Murder. Let me know if you guys grabbed any of those. Okay, enough of that. Now it's time to talk the career of Mr. Jeff Mandel. I guess let's start at the beginning with where you, I guess, found your love for cinema.
Well, let me say that I had negative family pressure. And when you said that, this just occurred to me. We used to live in Los Angeles in Park La Brea, which are for anybody not familiar with them in LA, it's a tall sort of Bauhaus Courvoisier brick cement jail tower. They have metal doors, and I was driving in the back of my mom's Pontiac convertible. I was jumping up and back in the back. This is way back when I was like 3 years old. You could do that in those days. And this car pulls her over, and it's Charlton Heston. And Charlton Heston says, him, I want him to play me as a kid in a movie. It was playing him in the Rushes in the 10 Commandments.
Wow.
And my mother says, oh, he's not 4 yet, and you have to be 4 to appear in movies. So that was the extent to the help that my parents gave me.
Wow.
And whenever I'd play something nice on the piano, I wrote my first song at 6 years old. My mother would say, "Oh, that's so lovely, but you know, Jeff, you have to be a doctor. You can always fall back on being a musician or a composer or whatever." So when I was in college, I was a pre-med student. I was actually a psychology major, studying perception, not loony, abnormal psych. I was studying perception of the film image, and the perception of music, and I was working with Dr. Morris Holland, the vice chairman of the department, and he wanted me to go to graduate school, but instead I switched from College of Letters and Science to College of Fine Arts and went to UCLA School of Film and TV. And it was just something that I wanted to do. I'm not related to any Mandel in this business. I fought my way. I once said to Howie Mandel, "Does everybody ask you if you're related to me?" And he just, he doesn't shake hands or anything. He just, he didn't react. He didn't. I guess you can't be funny if you're not. I don't know him, so I don't want to say anything bad. But I got an idea for a film. I was in the critical studies program, but I wanted to make a film. Oh, we saw so many films, man. You talk about films. Let's talk about film school for a second. I saw 8 films a week. And then you could go into Westwood back in the 70s, and I saw Satyricon by Fellini in the Bruin. I saw Putney Swope. You mentioned that the other day. Someone mentioned it. I saw another Fellini. What did I see? Roma. I saw Mean Streets for the first time. Its premiere at the Crest Theater in Westwood. Those was the heyday for going to films and seeing films. And then, of course, I had to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 films a week in class from 10 o'clock in the morning until they were over. History of American film, history of Warner Brothers, history of Preston Sturges, history of French film, history of German film, Spanish film, Italian film, Russian film, silence, novels into film. I was so inundated with film. And I was sitting there at the Fox Venice Theater, which is no longer there. It was a swap meet. And I was watching La Ventura by Antonioni. Do you know that film?
Yeah.
Well, not to cast aspersions or to criticize your taste, but I was seeing it now for the 6th time, and 10 minutes in, I thought, I'm bored. And I was bored the first time I saw this film. and my friend and I were driving down Crenshaw past Jefferson to the Kokosai Theater, where we saw 2 Japanese films a week. I saw every Zatoichi film, every Baby Cart film in the theater. Nice. Hanzo the Razor, plus another lot of stuff. So now, okay, I've got to somehow. That's the history. Now I've got to get out of film school, so I decided to make a film. And Airport had just come out, and there was Towering Inferno, and there were all these disaster films. And I thought, let's make a disaster film, but it'll be a disaster that doesn't go anywhere. So it'll be a sonic boom, and it'll last for about 20 minutes. And then the sonic boom comes and a little kid points, and that's it. That's the end of the movie. But we'll get a major star for every role. And the first star we got, I found a way to find his address, and it was George Kennedy. And I drove by his house up in the hills, and he was gardening. And now, mind you, I've had no connections, no experience, no anything up to this point. And I jump out of the car, and I say, "Mr. Kennedy, I've got this script. You've got to look at it. I'm a student at UCLA." I forged a letter from the chairman of the department. They're just finding that out now. And he said, "Oh, okay, and I don't know why, but we got a call at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. He's laughing hysterically. He says, "I've got to do this movie. I just finished shooting Airport 75, and you don't know what this means to me. I'd love to do it." So
Wow.
I did a 20-minute disaster film called Sonic Boom, starred George Kennedy, Jonathan Winters, Keith Moon's last film role, Sal Minio's last film role,
Wow.
Ricky and Dave Nelson, Lyle Talbot, that ought to ring a bell, Dick Martin of Rowan and Martin. Does anybody remember Rowan and Martin now?
I do.
Dick Carlson. We had a pair of Richards. And just everything was filled with stars. Now, at the same time, I'm interested in music, you understand. And I know you are too. But I auditioned to be the musical director of a little improv theater company called Kentucky Fried Theater.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And so my film is finished. And of course, now most of the people at the UCLA film department hate me because I made a commercial style film. But it's a parody of commercial films. All right, okay. Oh, by the way, Andy Williams sang the theme song, which I wrote.
Wow. Okay.
Hold Me, Love, My Plane's at the Door. You know, it had stuff like that. But so I auditioned. I didn't get the job as musical director, but I said, hey, you know, my film is playing in Westwood. Why don't you guys come and see it? And these three guys, Kentucky Fried Theater, came and saw it every screening. And at the last two, they would wave to me, and I tried to run up and talk to them and get myself the musical director job. And everybody, I'm not seeing the comments, but I'm sure everybody's already ahead of the end of this story. 4 years later, the three of them, Zucker, made Airplane, and they actually lifted my scene of Barbara Billingsley doing jive talk to the basketball players or whoever it was in the back.
Really?
That was actually it was actually Kristen Nelson talking to Leroy Vinegar, the jazz player.
Wow.
But I never felt bad about it. They had just decided, well, we won't show shorts before movies anymore. So that was my first bad luck. And my film, their film is funny, haha. My film is funny, peculiar. You know, there's one. I'm probably talking too much. You can stop me at any time, Master.
Well, that's good. I want you to paint the picture for us. But I will shout out. Fed78 says George Kennedy was infamous for accepting roles from people while being surprised during his gardening.
Yes. So I was trying to understand later. He passed away. I'm sorry. Keith Moon, to do his scene, disappeared. He showed up in a limo at the Burbank City Hall and disappeared. And I thought, what happened? Did he change his mind? No, he'd gone in the ladies' restroom and he'd taken a tampon and he'd cut the tampon in half and he cut another one in half and he made himself a goatee and a mustache. And that was his great contribution, is that he's wearing a lady's tampon as he says, I have a film. And the film is Sal Minio being subjected to sonic boom. He stands there and says, Men's Laboratories, 1974. Although this man did not know it, he was about to be subjected to sonic boom. And you hear boom, and you see blood squirt out of his ears, and he falls dead. So that was Sal Minio, prescient maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it never went anywhere, and I got an opportunity to direct another film. And I was seeing, now at this point, I already was tired of serious films. So I was seeing a Herschel Gordon Lewis festival. I was going to the New Art. I was seeing all the, well, Jodorowsky, I don't know if he's mainstream or not. I don't know what you call him. But I was enjoying blood and guts and action and exactly most of the kind of stuff they have at Vinegar Syndrome, you know, and the kind of films an alter ego MC makes. And that's the kind of stuff that I was seeking out in the theater.
Right.
Maybe I should jump ahead. Maybe I should jump ahead because this
Let's
is important.
talk about let's talk about your TV work. Before you reveal the title, I want to show a little video. It is, where the hell did it go? Okay, so let's talk about let's show a clip and then we'll talk about this.
Out of the fire of Earth attraction, beyond the limits of the world, where man and machine and spirit unite. Born by the power of lightning, into the 21st century. It is the end of the beginning. It is the time of Superforce.
Superforce.
You saw that name. That was Patrick McNee of the Avengers speaking, and I had the pleasure of directing him over the direct line to Luxembourg, where he was living, to do the voice of the Hungerford computer. And it was a question on Jeopardy. Who played the? I played the voice of Hungerford computer on Superforce. There's the, and the answer was, who is Patrick McNee? So,
wow.
So that was exciting.
We got some Superforce fans in the in the audience there. Always watched it. There you go. All right.
Is that Patrick McNee? Did I have a bad memory with names? Who played the prisoner? Patrick McGowan. Okay, yeah, Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
That's who that guy was.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Love the prisoner. Superforce. You saw the name Roderick Taylor at the end. Rod has been my friend for 40 years, since Superforce. We sort of met in his office through his son Bruce Taylor, who was also one of the collaborators, and they had done 6 episodes of Superforce, and it wasn't going anywhere. It was supposed to be the future, but they didn't have the budget. They were shooting on the back lot at Universal in Orlando, and to make it seem like the future, and by the way, everybody's dressed in sort of 80s,
yeah,
you know, but to make it seem like the future, every once in a while there'd be a rumble, and that was supposed to be some supersonic subway. And they did 2 of them were double episodes, so I guess they did 6 episodes on the discs that you have.
right.
And then actually Rod was called in. I still collaborate. In fact, I'm collaborating with Rod now. We won't talk about it. But we met. If you like 80s fashion and you like good-looking girls and you like politically incorrect, very unwoke music videos, go to YouTube to Roderick Taylor or Roderick Falconer, Only So Much Time. Only So Much Time. It's on YouTube, and I produced that video for him, and that's sort of how we met. And one day he says, "Well, can you write?" And I said, "Yeah, I can." Yeah. And so we wound up doing some things. We show up. We did O'Hara, remember, with Pat Morita. We produced. I was a executive script consultant. Having the executive in front of my name entitled me to a lot more money, and we didn't realize that I had a music agent. So sometimes ignorance is good. But we flew to Orlando, and we write a couple episodes, and they love them. And Bruce goes and looks at the wall and sees the episode list, and there's nothing listed. And he says, Jeff, come here. I said, what is it? He says, look, do you see? I said, yeah, there's nothing there. He says, I think the producers are gone. I think we can have this job. I said, you kidding? What's going on? And so I went out and I asked the receptionist, I said, what happened to I can't remember their names, the Brodies. I don't remember what their names were. But they did those first 4 episodes, 2 double episodes, 6 episodes. That's the first disc of Superforce. You can toss it away. If you get the 6 disc set, that is. And I said, yeah, what happened to the Brodies? Where they quit. It turns out they weren't quit. They were, well, I don't know what happened. But so all of a sudden the office we're working in, oh, that's going to be our office. And suddenly we had this show. And with the show, we were left alone. So we had these opportunities to do things that on O'Hara we were forbidden to do, and we were disincentive on other worlds. Rod and Bruce, by the way, went on to write and produce The Brave One with Jodie Foster. And Rod's big claim is, I think one of his first films was Gator with Hal Needham and Burt Reynolds. So Rod and I get along, but whenever I leave them to go do my own thing, they hit pay dirt, and you know, we've got to look into that. But so we were able to cast Ginger Lynn as the astronaut's wife. And as long as we had, do you know who Ginger Lynn is? Ginger Lynn is a famous porno star, and I guess Charlie Sheen. She was dating Charlie Sheen for a while. So she's playing the above board and certainly mainstream. This was a young adults show, a teen show. We had a huge fan. We were the #1 new science fiction show, action show on what is now the CW. And the only thing above us all the time was Star Trek, the new, I think it was Voyager. I can't remember the year, but it was one of the Star Treks. And then a couple times we beat it. We had Miami Vice's crew. We hired as a director Sidney Hires, who directed The Avengers many times back in England. He did our comedy episodes, and to help him out and to complement Ginger Lynn, we hired Tracy Lords to play one of these aliens that invaded Earth. Man. We inherited G. Gordon Liddy as the bad guy, Satori, and I was personally friendly with Timothy Leary. So for the end of the first season, I believe it was, we hired Timothy Leary to be the chief of police and arrest G. Gordon Liddy in a reversal of what happened in real life.
Wow.
And who else did we have? We had Sting the wrestler. That might impress some people. And we just did whatever we want. I said, let's have a sitcom episode. So he gets hit in the head with a wrench and has a sitcom. And it's a great fun thing in that style, that sort of dated style. But I think it holds up pretty well. And the episodes are very much, I had help with Elves with the script. I had written 6 scripts in a row, including the wonderful Robo Chick, and I was just exhausted. And then, are we there yet? Are we at Elves yet?
Not yet.
Well, okay, I'll stop. But Bruce came and helped me on 2 days out of the 6 days that I wrote it. That's all. He Bruce was Silverforce with me and Rod.
Let's talk about the cast.
What other questions?
Yeah, let's talk about.
We wrote an episode, and Jerry Lewis directed it. It's the only thing. It's the only thing that Jerry Lewis directed that he didn't write. And then I'm reading his autobiography, and someone else takes that credit. So I don't know, but some other different project. But we were there. I met Jerry Lewis. I should have had that picture near me. It was one of my. It's not important, but my office is being remodeled now. Let's say, and some of the pictures are being stacked, and that picture is there.
Well, let's talk about the cast and the people you worked with. I guess you mentioned Jerry. How was Jerry to work with? Was he a good guy, or was he just one of those guys that just didn't want to be bothered?
Jerry would always. He's talking to me, and we're right by the back lot on Universal. And every day at 3 o'clock or 3:30, I just needed my cappuccino, and I just walked through. And one of the most fun things when we were working here in Los Angeles at Universal, we had a bungalow, and at Orlando is that when I had free times, I'd get friends with all the crew, the physical crew with the rides, and I'd just go in, I'd ride all the rides and do all that stuff, and they'd see me coming, and they'd make way, and I go, so that was my thing. So I need to go out there, and they probably got my cappuccino ready for me, the Mel's Diner there, or whatever the diner was in American Graffiti. That's what it was. Universal. And I say, okay, Jerry, and he starts telling me, so in 57, Dean and I went, okay. And I'm standing there at the door, and I'm just listening, and I'm listening. And one of the stories he says when he first comes in is he says, I try and memorize the name of every member of the crew. So that means instead of saying, hey, Putz, move that light, I can say, did I just ruin your monetization?
Oh no, I can't monetize anyway, so you're all good.
But I can monetize.
Yes, you can. There you go.
And instead of saying, hey, Putz, move that light, I say, oh, hey, Thomas, would you please move that light? And they feel better about it. I get a memory exercise. Notice what's happening, and everything is fine. And I say, oh, that's great. Okay. So that day, I'm through for the day, and he took a whole suite at the Disney resort. We supplied rooms at the Comfort Inn, but and he had to leave Friday at 6 to get a cruise. That's the most important thing. But so I'm ready to go that day. And I peek in the door and say, hey, Jer, I'll see you tomorrow. And he goes, Jeff, I'll see you tomorrow. And I go walking, and I stopped, and I thought, is he thinking Putz? How does that work? Now, 10 years later, my friend Kip King was fired from a project by Jerry Lewis for being a jerk. Kip King is Chris Kattan's father. He's passed away.
Wow.
Kip King he was a good friend. And he's in the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and he sees Jerry Lewis in a tuxedo marching toward him. And it was a horrible firing, and he was yelled at, and it was horrible. And he's just standing there, and he's shaking, and he doesn't know what to do. And Jerry Lewis walks by him and goes, Kip. And that's that's the punchline there.
So let's talk about the porn stars you had on the show. You mentioned Ginger and Tracy. How were they to work with?
Ginger was very sweet. They were both very smart. And in my experience, I got a special thanks on Sex the Annabelle Chong story. So make of that what you will. It had nothing to do with her, but I didn't mean to mean that in a prurient way. But I find that a lot of the porn stars, be they women with problems or whatever, a lot of them are very sharp, and Ginger was very sharp, and I had the pleasure of I had to occupy her one day, so I took her to Epcot, and so I toured Epcot with Ginger Lynn. And one thing that I thought that was very interesting is she'd see this beautiful sequined gown or something in a shop, and she'd go, oh, that's a Ginger Lynn dress. And then she'd see a nice thing, and she'd say, oh, that's a Ginger Allen dress. And every night she would knock on the door, and Rod and Bruce and I would come together, and she would give us a fashion show of all the clothes she'd bought that day. And so we got fashion shows every night from Ginger Lynn Allen. And she'd always be saying, I don't know. We won't say anything. But she was good. She knew her lines. In her role, we had her always interested in the psychic, in the paranormal, and she was always creating. She was in 4 episodes, I think, 3 or 4 episodes, And in the sitcom episode, we had her addicted to Madame Zora at the pier. Put in a quarter and get your fortune. So we kept the same characters even when it was a sitcom. Tracy Lords was very nice. I didn't have that much interaction with Tracy Lord, except that when the joke was, I mean, she was so pretty in real life. All of these women are prettier in real life than they look on film. I find that interesting. But we made her a lizard wearing a human face mask. And I thought that was funny. But I got to I wanted to see the process of putting on the lizard and then putting the human skin over it and everything with the makeup department. And so we got to talking, and I got invited to a party after I got back here by her, and then I'm at another party and I feel this whack on the back. You know, who's hitting me? No, it's Tracy Lords. Hi, how are you? I haven't seen you. So she was very nice. I wish I had something scandalous to say about them, but they were professionals and they knew their lines. The guy who was a little bit of a problem might have been Timothy Leary, but you know, he was always out there. G. Gordon Liddy, I had longer hair than this. Rod was doing his Only So Much Time rock thing. So this was, what year are we talking about? 92, 90, 89, 90, 91, 92. And so we looked like counterculture characters. And it was so hard talking to G. Gordon Liddy and saying, no, you know, we're not really any culture. We're not, you know, we're writing this show. We're producing this show.
Right.
We had Andre, what's his name? Rap star.
Oh,
Kashmir, help me. You know,
Andre. I can't even think right now.
He used it. Yeah, I can't. Cat, my girlfriend knows these guys. I can't think of this big, huge rap guy. He was a guest. We had. Well, those are the ones. Actually, I spoke the ones that I remember the most.
Gotcha. What about Ken? What about Ken?
Well, Ken Olin, he would rollerblade. He had an apartment somewhere between the grocery store and where I was staying at the Comfort Inn.
Okay.
For 10 weeks. For the first season, and whenever I saw him, I'd go to the store, and then all of a sudden I'd hear shoom, 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 and it'd be Ken Olent, and he's coming in. Ken Olent, many years later, Dr. Dre. Dr.
Dre. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I met Dr. Dre, and
that's cool.
I guess this is before he was Dr. Dre. I produced by myself that episode because Rod was directing another episode at that time. We wrote, the three of us together in some form or another, wrote 35 episodes in essentially 35 weeks. Wow. At any given time, we were trying to think up what the next episode would be while we were starting writing the new episode, while we were doing corrections on the episode we just handed in, while we were doing changes on the episode that was shooting. So we were always working on 4 episodes at a time. And one of our guests, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm not used to this. One of our guests was the one and only Richard Lynch. And Richard Lynch, I whenever we were through working, we always tried to shoot as much as we could at night because personally I like being up at night, and it looked better. I walked out there, and Richard Lynch had this cape on and stuff like that, and he runs up to me the moment I showed up there, and he says, "I thank you all for the use of the hall." And he walked away. And I thought, what did I do? I hadn't remembered that I'd actually even written that line for the scene that he was doing. And he was rehearsing, but I was so mixed up with layers of scripts that we were writing. And then the young kid playing the son in that, it's okay we disclose this. There was a Simon and Simon episode where the father asks his son to throw the game. So every series that Rod and Bruce and I have worked on, we've tried to throw that plot in. I believe it was called Sins of the Father in Superforce. It was called, I can't remember now, in O'Hara, but it's the same plot and everything. So the son comes up to me while I'm standing there and he says, "I don't understand." He's running away from home after throwing the game. He says, "I don't understand why I don't resolve things with my father." And I do my typical producer, writer, director hat. And I said, "Well, I think that really there's a lot of stuff between the two of you, particularly the way you're performing it," which I had no idea. I wasn't watching it. Where you're having a relationship between each other. It's clear from your eyes that you love each other and everything. And while I'm talking to him, I realize, my God, you call your father and you apologize to him in one of the scenes. And I said, and of course there is that scene where you call him, but I and you make amends with your father. He says, "Oh yeah, that's right." So he didn't remember it either. But I'm the writer, and you'd think I would know these things. But the other thing was in Jerry Lewis's episode, I come walking out. There was we wrote a monster truck into the episode. Time out. They were making it seem like the future because there was an underground subway that they put the sound effects in. Okay. I drove down International Boulevard with Rod and Bruce in a taxi cab. And this is Orlando, Florida. And International Boulevard is an S-shaped boulevard. And at the time, there were stores, and it just said shoes. And another store said T-shirts. And another store said Mini Mart and everything. And I said, "Here's your future." So we took the water park, Wet and Wild. And we took that for the day and made it that you went down a slide and you landed in a gambling club.
Wow.
Underneath the city, and the monster truck had to come up and run over a car chasing the owner. And I'm trying to think, he was a great Vegas comedian, not Jackie Leonard. You look at it in the credits, you can look in the back of the box. It's not my credit. Nobody's credit is on the box. And the monster, and okay, several things regarding that. The monster truck goes up over the car, and the drive chain breaks. And stop everything. Everything's horrible. Everything. And Jerry Lewis is sitting there in a chair. I can't slouch down here. I'll get out of the picture. He's sitting there in the chair. He's just going with that upset Jerry Lewis look, And I said, "Look, Jerry, it's simple. You got it going up on the car. Just shoot on the back, going down like that. And then we'll have the car and we'll push it off and have it come down on the thing like that." And he's looking at me. And I said, and without breaking stride, I said, and here I am telling you, a great director, how to do your shot. I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm just doing my job. I wasn't thinking. So he didn't want me to, and of course he did it that way, but I don't know if he had thought that, but I had no business telling Jerry Lewis how to shoot. And we used we used Wet and Wild water park, and then we went to the Disney Paradise Island, and the one club they had where it spins around, the dance floor spins around, and we shot there and everything. And it's this massive footage, and we wrote it. We tailored it to that kind of humor, and then. But he's not finished for the day. We had one scene and we were in the middle of it, and it's 6 o'clock and he's got to leave. And Jerry Lewis puts his coat on and puts it together, and he comes walking, and I say, "Thank you. It was a great pleasure," and everything. And he just and he doesn't say anything, and he just gets in his car in his limousine with his wife, and they drive away. And we were left with this mass of footage. And what are we going to do? And so the editor, I mean, it was really, it's one of those messes that, oh great, you got 100 hours of footage. It's not 100 hours, but you know, what do we got to take after take, a close up and coverage, and what are we going to do? And so the editor slaves over it, slaves over it, and slaves over it. And then he comes back, he says, here's the episode. And we looked at it, and it was his, I think it's called Wet and Wild. It's hysterical. It's funny. It looks like a Jerry Lewis film. I mean, wow. The timing, the expressions on people's faces, and everybody's looking, oh, they're clapping and slapping high five, and we're going to make you head editor next season, you know, and this, that, and everything. And they go home. And did you ever see Colossus, the Forbin Project?
Yeah, a long time ago.
At the end, we know it's going to blow. And our fella, I believe he played a senator, is sitting there smoking a cigar, and he just kind of is watching the TV, and he knows it's all over. And I felt William Shallert,
Okay.
Trouble with Tribbles in Star Trek, and he's sitting there. So everybody left, the lights are dim, and I'm looking at the episode again, and I think that editor really didn't do anything. That editor just put the footage together the only way you could put it together. Jerry Lewis shot it that way. He shot it that way. He shot it with the pause before, you know, he did. And I learned a valuable lesson, you know, which is, you know, if you're worried about what's going to happen in post-production, just shoot what you need. Yeah. But the editor wasn't the genius that Jerry Lewis was.
Right. Let's talk about actually what came first, Elves or RoboChick?
Well, that's a good question. I was hired to do RoboChick, and RoboChick was going to be my crowning glory. There she is, Kathy Shower, Playmate of the Year. And let me take it off and let me briefly talk about AIP, which is not American International Pictures, it's Action International Pictures. Okay. This was the 80s, and direct-to-video got really big, and one of the biggest was AIP. And David Winter, David Pryor, and Peter Uval. And I became friendly with Peter Uval. David Winter is an interesting guy. He was a dancer in one of the Jets in the stage version of West Side Story, and then he played the same thing in the movie. And he got this idea, hey, we'll make direct-to-video movies and we'll sell them in Europe. And so he raised the money, you know, for the movie, and he bought the offices, and he did the thing, and he went to and he made the poster before he made the movie. And that's the way he'd do it, because he could take these posters and he could go to MeFed and Cannes, not the Cannes Film Festival, but the Cannes Film Market, and the AFM here. I think I said, you know, where all these film markets, and he would sell the posters. And then whatever money you'd get, he'd make the movies. But with his first movie, he raised the money and spent it all on the offices, and I think a Rolls Royce and a bunch of other things. And now he didn't have the money to make the movie that he'd sold. So he made a poster for another movie and went and sold that. And then he made the first movie for the money for the second movie. And this was like a personal Ponzi scheme. And it just became, over a period of years, it became this huge machine that was just churning out movies. So I didn't come up with the idea for Elves. They came up with a poster for Elves. I didn't come up with the idea for RoboChick. In fact, it was the 6-year-old son of one of the executive producers said, oh, this is RoboChick. He said, oh, that's a great movie. I love people that say, oh, it's a great movie, and there's a scene that they have in a club where they make love, and then now you got to go write it.
Yeah.
But that actually happened to me. But with Robo Chick, this was going to be my crowning achievement. I had worked at National Lampoon. I directed, produced, and was one of the head writers on the last National Lampoon stage show, Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll and the End of the World, which was then supposed to be a cable show and then finally became an album. And of course, when the album, and in fact, I carved a secret message. If you have the vinyl LP, that's my handwriting in the little thing where the needle goes at the end of the record. I wrote on it in the pressing place. So that's
nice.
So I had that fun, yeah. But of course, all my stuff got cut out. And here's my first lesson to aspiring filmmakers, or even working successful filmmakers and stage and entertainment people. When we got to the recording studio, the actress who played the role of Jane Fonda in my sketch said, "What happened to all my lines?" I said, "Oh, National Lampoon executives cut it out. We're not doing it." She said, "Well, I can do that line." And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, go ahead." And she said, "Well, that line doesn't make sense unless I put in this line." And I said, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, we'll put that line. She said, "Well, how about if I do?" And we wound up just reconstructing the whole sketch that was cut. And at the listening party, the track plays, and the executive producer comes up to me and says, "Who wrote that?" I said, "I wrote that." He says, "Oh, it's great." So he's the guy that cut it all out, and then he complimented me. He's great. So anyway, I wanted to be a comedy director, and
right.
this had some great things in it, and they sent this is a story that I could talk about that probably won't be interesting to anybody, but they had to send somebody out here to check me out to make sure I was okay to come there and write it, direct it. They loved the script. Everybody's rolling over laughing at the script, and I was set to go there and shoot it, I think in August or something, and this is May, June, I don't know. I get a call from another producer, and he says, "Listen, we wonder if you would like to come out here before Robo Chick and shoot another movie." Oh, and I said, "Well, sure. What is it?" He says, "Well, it's we call it Elves. The poster says they don't work for Santa." Oh, maybe that poster doesn't, but on the box it's going to say they don't work for Santa anymore. And what we have is Dan Haggerty, and we were thinking he would play a department store Santa, and we've got the Elves, and we've got Nazis." And I said, "Stop! Don't tell me another thing. They had a treatment. Don't tell me anything more about the treatment. That's all I need. Just let me go and let me do it. When do you need this?" "Well, we need it in a week." "Oh, when are we shooting?" "Well, we're shooting in 2 weeks or 3 weeks." "Oh, okay. Fine." So now I was burned out. I'd written Robo Chick, and they asked me to write Elves. And so Mike Griffin, who did National Lampoon with me, and we did live comedy at the Hollywood Palace, 2,000 people, drive time, highest rated show. Father Guido Sarducci, if you remember him, the following week and bombed, and they asked us to come back. What we did is we had our bits and we had the times next to them. So they'd come backstage and say, "We need 1 minute and 27 seconds. I said, "Well, we got it. Okay, we got it." But I'm digressing. And so Mike came out on Monday, Bruce on Tuesday, Mike on Wednesday, Bruce on Thursday, and then I did the rest, and I just put the script together. And then I went out there, and the casting was a problem. We shot it in 13 days. This is Elves we're talking about. You asked me about Robo, but it's important that let's talk about Elves for a second, which we're going to see.
Sure.
Right? Because
real quickly, I just want to highlight a comment. Maroon Moon Film says, "I love Elves. It's my favorite horror Christmas film."
Thank you very much.
So there you go. Now, question: when you showed up, the elves were already made, right?
I was told in this initial phone conversation, we're going to have 7 elves. They're going to be about 7 inches tall. We have
Okay.
one that can crawl up the stairs. We have one that can hang from a tree and do things. We have one that can actually walk. We have one that I don't remember. It was all in the script. We have one, and then we have a stunt elf that, if you have to throw them under a car or something like that. Okay, that's great. And I show up in Colorado, and there's no elves, and they say, "Oh, the elf is. We have video of the elf. We have video of the elf. The elf, okay, yeah." And in walks Patrick Denver. Patrick Denver is Bob Denver's son. For those of you who don't recognize the name, Bob Denver played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island, and for some psychological reason I can't fathom, Bob Denver's son, Patrick Denver, had his hair cut exactly like Gilligan, and he looked exactly like Gilligan. But that's okay. And he says, and here's the elf. And he put in this videotape, and it's the top part of him that you're looking at right now. It's about 4 or 5 feet tall. Or no, it's not, it's like 3 or 4 feet tall. And it's not finished. It's just the clay on a stand, and it's rotating. And then they had lights going on it. So they're looking, and all the people around me, all the people from Colorado are looking at it and going, "Oh, that's great. That's so great." And I said, how tall is it? He said, "Oh, it's going to be whatever. It was 3 feet something inches." Okay, I was told it was going to be 7 inches. No, it's 3 feet. Okay, so you've got ones that do it. Well, he said, "Well, you'll see." I said, when is it going to be done? And the producer said, "I'll take care of that." But this highlighted a moment where it was Colorado. Listen, WinStar Productions, who did the film, were wonderful people by and large. I would say 98% of the staff and the people working on the film were great people, especially Jerry Graham, who was the CEO. I was impressed by him. He may have been one of the smartest men that I've ever met. And he knew everything that was going on, even if he didn't let me know that he knew. I had some trouble with one of the line producers. But to show you how good these people are, the part of Willie, the little kid in the movie, is played by Chris Graham, who runs the company now. So in your next discussion with him, and his younger brother was also one of the kids on Santa's lap. Talented guy. I wish, for our sake, he might have gone into acting, but for his sake, I think being head of a company is probably a better career choice. Right. But if he ever wants to appear in anything, get in touch with me, because he was the most professional on the set.
Wow.
But the line producer fella and his wife, the production designer, came to me and basically said, "We're not going to let some guy from Hollywood tell us how we make our films in Colorado." And that was a problem. However, Elves had to be, they didn't realize, and I wouldn't have realized it either, that a Christmas movie has to be delivered to the distributor to be made into the VHS, to do the artwork and print the boxes, and it has to be delivered by August 1st. So they were thinking they had till Christmas or something. I don't know. That's what I would have thought. But no, we literally had weeks that we had to finish the song. There's the song, the movie. There's no work print. We edited in 2 12-hour shifts, 6 to 6 and 6 to 6, directly onto online.
Wow.
So I would take the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. There was no, I would set aside 2 hours to go back into the day people's work. and fix it to more to what I like. But I took over at about the point where they enter the department store. If you haven't seen it, or you're going to see it tomorrow, you'll see that even I feel, even I feel that, gosh, the film just really picks up there and is really nice.
Right.
But of course, that's where all the murders are and everything. But anyway, you know, maybe I picked starting at in the middle intentionally. I'm sure I did. But it was done so quickly that there was actually no way to interfere with me making the movie. We had to go as fast as we could. And there were many problems, and I don't know if we want to talk about them now, because now I can now segue over to Robo Chick. Oh, look at that elf.
I love it.
Look at that.
Yeah, I think definitely the design of the elves is part of the magic of that movie. I mean, I only imagine your face when you saw that for the first time.
not only was it designed so that he couldn't hide anywhere, but it had these cables. It had these spring-like cables to move its mouth and its eyebrows and look its eyes and everything. And of course, they poured the foam directly over it. So right before the first shot that we took of the elves, the mechanics locked up.
Oh, great.
And the elf is now like this. I mean, that's it. That's what we had to work with. God bless Patrick Denver. He said, look, I took puppetry in New York. I can puppet this thing. Let me do that. Let me at least do that so we get that kind of movement. And we had two hands that the fingers would move, and we had two legs that we could just shoot the legs of. But the elf was just frozen. And he dug out the foam from the inside of the elf, and he stuck his arm up, and he made a way so that he stuck his hand into the mouth of the elf. Okay, you know what? We'll make this work. What he didn't tell me is that he studied puppetry like with the Muppets. So whenever the elf was going to go do anything, the elf would go, you know, it would rear back and then it would move and stuff like that. And I'm looking at Gilligan working a Muppet in a film that's supposed to be scary. And I just said, well, you know, I love filmmaking. This is filmmaking. This is what I love. And so that film proceeded very quickly, and I have a lot of stories that we'll tell about that maybe closer to when we see it. But let me get to Robo Chick.
Yes.
So there we go. So that poster was made, and the Robo car looked nothing like that, by the way. It was just I think they took an old rotary engine car and put some fancy headlights on it. I don't know what they did. I did.
Right.
And I hired all my friends from LA. Phil Proctor of the Firesign Theater, who had given me all my jobs, including, by the way, directing the first HBO movie with Don Adams, Get Smart. See, I was into comedy a lot. And Kip King was in it. And the villains of Elves, the German and his two henchmen,
right,
actually my British friend, Jeffrey Mansell Riversbland. And he played Quentin Thalian, the British bad guy, in Robo Chick with his two assistants. I thought that was a funny tie-in. I always try and put Rivers in all my movies. Rivers also, you would know what I'm talking about, but he sculpted that Aztec figure in another movie that I told you about at another time. And he painted, I believe he painted the cover of the book in that movie. He's passed away, a real tragedy. He had a heart problem. But Rivers, going back a long way, he's actually an artist, a sculptor. And he pioneered, he was one of the first people to carve in foam with a hot wire and hot tools. And he did that at the BBC and did all the Tom Baker Doctor Who's and he was drinking buddies with Tom Baker. But he also did all the Egyptian sculptures in Indiana Jones. He did all the rock sculptures. His specialty was rock. He did all the rock sculptures in Temple of Doom. He did the bust in Time Bandits that blew up at the end.
Wow.
He did the Michael Jackson Coke commercial or Pepsi commercial, whatever it was. He did the set, you know.
Okay.
He did a lot of stuff. But he always wanted to be an actor. You know, the actors always want to be singers. Singers always want to be, you know, everybody wants to be a director. Everybody always wants to be something that they're not doing. And Rivers,
right,
wonderful artist that he was, and successfully working sculptor, wanted to be an actor. So I put him in Elves.
There you go.
From left to right, our precious little Kirsten, and little Willie, and you know, and
that's awesome.
And then he was with his own accent, Quentin Thalion in RoboChick. But in RoboChick, they decided that I'd had enough, that I had shown too much. You know, who knows what it is? They wanted control.
Yeah.
And I'm not a person who can be controlled. May I give you an example of that from Elves?
Sure.
We're in the department store. Well, I tend to digress, and I don't want to lose my train. But
no, it's fine.
We're in the department store, and I originally cast all real teenagers, 16 and 17 years old, and the studio said, no, quickly find somebody else. So we found Julie Austin, and we found Laura Lickstein, who were great. I mean, who knows who was right, but they were right. Those were, but we kept the 17-year-old Stacy Dye, who is in the lingerie in the department store at night, and Rivers comes in and wants to know where Kirsten is, and one of his bad guys is holding a gun to her head, and then we go away, and I'll tell you about the mix later. You couldn't punch in. It was an 8-track studio, and they had no Foley. I spent 24 hours of 36 hours doing all the Foley in Elves myself in the studio. Wow. You don't have the mother drowning in the bathtub. They have a synthesizer is going. You've never heard of Foley? No, we don't know what Foley is. They didn't know what Foley is. No, they okay. I'm there to teach them. Okay, so I did. I from beginning to end, I did all the Foley. Okay, now let's mix it. Oh, wow. We missed that line. We got to go back and punch in. Oh, we can't punch in on our equipment. What? It's broken. It puts up woo in stereo wherever you punch in. So in 10-minute bits, I had to make a decision. Okay, we missed that. We missed this. Should we go back and do it again? Do we have time? The taxi's going to be at the door in the morning to take me to the airport to get it to go from Green Bay, Wisconsin to Minneapolis to Denver, another plane to Colorado Springs, and then it had to be shipped to get there at 1 p.m. the next day. Wow. Why couldn't I have shipped it from Green Bay, I wonder? Anyway, oh no, it had to be laid back. It had to be laid back into the truck. Oh, that's another interesting. Oh, that's lesson number 2. But we'll get back to the main story. So it was so quick in that fashion. Oh, but this is a good anecdote. I have the soundtrack in my head in Green Bay, and I gotta make the flight in Minneapolis to Denver, and I got to make that Denver flight to Colorado Springs, and they're depending on me. And they say, oh, we have battery problems. We're going to be delayed about a half an hour to an hour. Right. Now, in these days, I was able to say, is there a FedEx in this airport? Can I get off this plane? This has to be in Denver to make that flight to Colorado Springs. Sure, go ahead. You never do that. You never get away with that today. But But I ran out. She said the FedEx counter is right by the gangway. I said, okay, great. And I ran out to FedEx and I said, can you get this to Denver so that it gets to Colorado Springs or can you get it straight to Colorado Springs before 1 p.m.? And he says, yeah, sure. I said, how is it going out? He says, oh, it's going out on your plane. So that's that. So that's that story. But anyway, it was that frantic and that fast. So RoboChick didn't have that problem. What is
Maroon, sorry, one of our guests is having a great time. This is great. Thanks for talking to us tonight. That's
well,
you.
Thank you. I hope I have enough or not too much to say.
And Nick, yes, it is. We're watching it tomorrow, just so you know. Tom, thank you for joining us, pal. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. We're about to talk a movie that is also known as, I don't know if you know this, Jeff, it's also known as Thundertronic.
No, I've never seen that. It ran briefly on USA Network as Cyber Chick. Oh, well, that's one of the things. LA versus Colorado. I show up there. I say, you can't call it Robo Chick. They said, well, why not? And I said, because Orion, who was in existence at the time, will sue you because of RoboCop. They said, no, we checked with our attorney. You can't copyright a title. And you know that, you yourself know that that's true. You can't copyright a title. I said, but you don't understand Hollywood. I shouldn't have said it that way. I said, you don't understand Hollywood. Orion has attorneys on retainer whose only job all day is to just sue everybody or make deals or something. They'll sue you. It doesn't cost them anything. They'll sue you. They said, no, okay. And that's the way I deal with low budget movies. The wall fell down. Okay. Let's make the wall fell down. Okay. Whatever you're given, you have to deal with it.
Right.
Well, I never finished the story about the girl in the lingerie who was 17 years old. She had to wear 2 pairs of panties. She was embarrassed. Did I just lose your monetization?
No, I don't have any.
I know, but once again, I do. Okay. She's lying there in the elevator, and here's my special effects guy, Patrick Denver. He comes in with a bucket, and he's got blood. And he dips his hands in the blood, and the production, she was the associate producer, comes over and grabs me on the shoulder and says, Jeff, we just got a call from Los Angeles. You've got too much blood in this movie. Now, those of you who haven't seen it, or if you recall it, there isn't that much blood in the movie. But in 1989, for a horror movie, I guess there was too much blood for the distributor. I don't forgive them in any way, but they were thinking of foreign distribution, and there's certain countries where you can't show a nipple, and there's certain countries where you can't show blood. So they were concerned about their sales. Elves became the top distributed film of AIP's history. So wow. You're welcome. But she says, you're using too much blood. I said, oh, okay, thanks. And she walked away, and I said, oh, well, okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking down at Patrick, he's already got his hand in the bucket. I say, I'm sorry, just put it on the bullet wound and put somewhere. And he said, Jeff, when have you ever listened to anything that anyone said? and I actually didn't have that impression of myself. Mm-hmm. And as you can see from this interview, I'm not a pushy guy. I'm not, and is it okay to say I've met you on the outside? And I'm a fairly decent fellow. People will attest to that. I don't think of myself as pushy, but I guess when I'm making a low budget movie, I'm just doing. And please, I'm not rude. We've got to do this. Let's do this. Okay. And people are on my side, I thought. Jeff, when have you ever listened to anything that anybody said? And I said, okay, I guess you're right. And I exaggeratedly, jokingly looked over my shoulder and I said, pour it on. And he just dumped all over. And so
Nice.
to them, I suppose I bowled my way through Elves just to get it done. And we're going to see it. I have more stories about Elves, but let's just get to Robo Chick.
Yes.
We were shooting in Pueblo. Oh, now that's not Kathy Shower.
Right. I was going to ask.
Yes, that's Eric Estrada's girlfriend, and I can't remember her name. And she was very good. She did everything in the script the way that I envisioned it, but I never even got to meet her because. So this is the days before cell phones. The producer had one. It looked like a walkie-talkie from from an old World War II movie, or from World War II, and so there was no. So we were shooting in Pueblo. It's about a half an hour, 45 minutes from where I had an apartment in Colorado Springs, where the company was. So I just rented myself a room. Making both films actually cost me money, but I was having a good time. Who cares? Who cared at that time? Now
Right.
I could do it over again, unless you could loan me 20 till Tuesday. But we'll talk after the show.
Yeah.
So I'm staying at the Hampton Inn, and I get the call sheet. Okay, yeah, tomorrow we're doing so and so and so and so at this location. Okay, and I would get up every morning and I would make my little scene diagrams and make sure everything was in, know what shots, get a shot list. And as a filmmaker, one of the most important things is to know what the first shot is, and then you can figure other stuff out later as they're getting all that together. But I show up at the location and there's nobody there. Now this is not a one-time occurrence. This is a Schenectady. I'm giving you one example that represents a lot of different examples. And there's nothing there. And now I get that butterflies. Did I get the location wrong? And I take out my notebook. No, I'm supposed to be here. Okay. I don't have a way to get in touch with anybody. So I wait. 10 minutes go by, 15 minutes go by. There aren't even, the production people should be arriving earlier. So I get back to the Hampton Inn and I call up to Colorado Springs to the company. And I say, what's going on? There's nobody at the location. Well, we don't know. Everybody's down there in Pueblo. All right, just take a message. I'm at the location that was, whatever it was, the Arby's, just let me let them know if they call and they're looking for me. And I hang up and I go back and I'm there. And an hour goes by and I'm now a nervous wreck. And a car pulls up. I won't say her name, or the producer's name, because I don't want to say bad things about people.
Right.
But you can look on the film and see the credits of the line producer and the production designer. And she decided to change locations last night at midnight. We're going to be shooting these scenes. Oh, okay. And I was driven there and I did it. But it would be things like that. I'm in the middle of directing a complicated scene, and another guy who was a talented guy, and I wanted to be friends with him, but he kept siding with this other producer. And he said, we need the keys to your apartment in Colorado Springs. I said, why? He says, well, we have some actors that are coming down from Denver and we want to put them in your apartment. And I said, well, no, wait a minute. I'm paying for it. I'm renting that apartment so that I can stay there. I have all my stuff out. I had my boom box, at the time, so I could listen to Stephen Sondheim. And my clothes are out. You can't move people into that. And in the middle of a complicated scene.
What the heck?
What the heck? And then we're shooting a scene. They find a location it was Dr. Sigmoid von Kolin. We'll let that sink in for everybody for a moment. That was Kip King. He was hysterical. And he used my favorite line that I put in all my comedies, which is, "Man, that's coffee." See, he doesn't notice what's going on. But anyway, I'm talking to myself. We were shooting in the basement of a rendering facility. And the smell is enough to make you just lose it. And you can't get it out of your nose for days, even though the smell isn't on your clothes or anything, you can't unremember that smell. So they would be burning these big incense blocks. And we have Jack Carter and we have Kip King. Kip King is Dr. Sigmund von Kohlen. Jack Carter is Dr. Boberigmus. I'll let that sink into those. That's bowel noises for people who don't want to go use the thesaurus. Okay, the dictionary. And Robo Chick and everything. And it's the biggest, it's a 12-page day. And it all has to be shot. That's the only time we've got this thing. We've got to do it. Okay. Right. And Kathy Shower goes into her trailer and won't come out. So I go in and I talk to her and she says, "Jeff, you've been great." We met up here on La Brea in Los Angeles where she showed me, she designed that suit. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I said, "That's great. That's wonderful." And she says, "It's not you. It's not you. I wish you and I could make this movie." And I don't know, maybe she's just saying that or whatever. But Phil Proctor had come to me and said, "Jeff, we can't work this way. This has happened several times now that we get our call sheet. We know what scenes we're shooting. We prepare as actors, we prepare. And then I get a call at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. This producer called me at 11 o'clock at night before the first shot of Elves to tell me he didn't think I knew what I was doing. To come to the bar in Colorado Springs where he could tell me that."
Wow.
That's wow. People trying to control other people. You get that a lot in this business. I think you know that, Master.
Yeah.
And I guess you and I are both uncontrollable.
Yes, absolutely. I've shared my stories. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, we've got this is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. Corpses Are Forever. It reminds me of Memento. It reminds me of that series Legend. This is a great movie, and I think we should do it on Master Chaos TV.
Maybe.
See who directed this? Oh well. Anyway. Oh no! But Phil has come to me and said, "We can't do this. We prepare a scene, then we get a call at 11 or 12 o'clock at night telling us it's a different scene, and we can't work that way. Would you please do something?" And there were similar things. They would go to the actors who were my friends, and they would say, they asked me for the key to my apartment. What was it that they wanted Phil to do? Oh, they wanted Phil to go pick up another actor and drive him back to the set. He says, "Well, I'm preparing for this scene. What are you talking about?" I mean, they were just horrible. They were just horrible. And then Kathy Shower on a 12-page day at about page 3 trying to decide whether to quit or not. She'd already decided to quit. And I watched, I spent 2 hours talking to her and then to this evil producer. But the company people were great. Kathy Shower was actually very good as the automaton, and the movie would have worked very well with her. But Erica, I can't think of her name, Eric Estrada's girlfriend. She's got a credit in there somewhere. Oh, there she is. She actually got along well with Kip, and I love their scenes together. And she actually performed the script better, more like what I had, not better, but more like I had envisioned. But
gotcha.
so it was just horrible. So I said the only way I can solve this is to quit. And it was starting to snow, and they said we'll stop and we'll start. Now see, they had to deliver a film to AIP for distribution. They had a contract. They didn't have that August 1st deadline. So whatever happened, but the other director did a good job of finishing it up. But I have to say, when I look at the film, I can tell which scenes are mine and which scenes are his, because in mine, you really know what's going on and you see the joke. Whereas his are, I shot a lot of wide shots, yes, but comedy is a very delicate thing. For example, there's a scene where the two doctors are together and somebody says, "Doctor," and they both turn and go, "Yes," at the same time. You just need that little half second before they turn for it to be really funny. And you can't explain that, and they had, and I don't know what problems they had putting it together, how much time they had, but I had a line, it was on the TV in the news: drugs, panacea or penicillin. Minor, but it's full of stuff like that. But they would always go drugs, panacea or cut, go to something else. So the script is ruined and everything is all just, and the music score is almost non-existent. And there were action scenes with them driving, and you can see an action when I gave them only the pieces they needed, like they go in the alley and Robo Chick grabs the one henchman. I don't want to lose your, I want to upset your children, but he bounces them up. I've already ruined it. You already aren't going to let your kids watch. Okay. But it's just horrible. And I called them and I said, I'm being nice. Ed worked so hard on completing the film, and it would never have been finished without him and everything. Why don't you take my name off as director and just leave me the screenplay credit? And they said, "Oh, we already paid to have the credits made."
Too bad.
Oh boy, well, okay, that it is what it is, and that's it. I will outlive the film. It'll be okay. And on the first day of release, and we're talking direct to video, it gets released to all the blockbusters. Orion sues them.
Oh, wow.
So they had to pull all the films. And I thought, oh my God, I've dodged a bullet. This is amazing. This is amazing. Now, wow. We'll talk about the stories later, but flash forward 4 years, 4 or 5 years, I'm in Hong Kong, and I'm working in Hong Kong. I needed money to finish the very last film I made on film. Just digression. Everything I did was on film. I got cuts on my hands from a moviola from rolling reels up. I had to send reels to the lab to get scratch removal, so that none of this stuff that you kids have today with the digital and everything. Different world, different. And also, I had a great sense of how many frames to cut out of this cut and add to that cut and everything. When you're dealing with 24 frames per second, I had to relearn 30 frames per second. Different story, different. Right. Okay, so I'm in Hong Kong in 1994, and everybody is now. Elves was really big. Oh, it's right. This is the Hong Kong Elves Laserdisc.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
Do you know what a Laserdisc is? It's like a.
Oh, yeah, I used to have them.
Kids, it's like no. I'm talking to your.
Actually, for the people that are asking in the comments,
Oh,
especially Hoax, the
I know.
Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I have been working with Jeff to try to figure that situation out. I am in touch with the people over on the WinStar who have the right to have all the materials, but they have just not gotten back to me. I've mentioned a couple times on this channel that I've wanted to start a label. Elves was going to be my first one, but
That was a good choice.
yeah, the things might be changing in that regard, but that's a discussion for another time. But we're working on it. Basically, nobody has it yet. Elves is not on Blu-ray because no one's Vinegar Syndrome or whatever has never reached out to them, and it is right now it's in limbo. But stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have some news.
There was a situation at AIP where it caught up to them that they were spending movie money on another movie and then having to you know the Ponzi scheme I was talking about.
Yeah.
And Peter Yuval said, "I've got to quit because this company is going under." And I said, "Come with me. Let's us do a movie. How much can you make if I did an erotic thriller? How much could you make in the foreign market?" And he gave me a figure. I said, "Okay, well, we'll make it for less than that. Let's just do it, but let's just do it right." And of course, I found out that my friend of 7 years was secretly selling it without telling me in various territories. We sued and we won. I have the rights back, but you know, everybody considers it an older film now. That's another story. Temple of Desire. He retitled it. I'm not going to reach back. The Temple of Desire.
Yeah.
There they are. See Fred Lena in the middle? He plays the father in Greatest Showman in a scene opposite Hugh Jackman. That's got to count for something.
That's right.
So what was I saying? So I quit. So I quit the film and had to have my take. And now I'm in Hong Kong.
And how much of RoboChick is yours from what you can, from your estimation? How much is actually yours?
No, I don't. I don't know, but I think I don't think any of the. I was writer for hire for Elves and RoboChick both.
Gotcha.
But I would still work with you. I would hope for doing the commentary I'm paid handsomely. But
oh yeah, but I mean, like, how much of the movie?
I was joking, but yeah, no, wait, how much of it? How much of
how much of it was left of your footage?
Oh, they used all of it. They were not going to throw away anything. They reshot one scene. It was a windy night, and Kathy Shower's hair kept blowing over her, and it was reshot with the other actress, but she was as good as Kathy, and it was in a control room. I can see where it was cheaper. I had a view of all Colorado Springs all lit up behind, but the hair blowing in the now I since could see ways that we could have fixed it, but it was really blowing. This is color. I mean, it was just every direction. And but anyway, I'm sitting. So I'm going to Hong Kong, where I know Elves was big. In Japan, it was huge. Released by what's the name of that? Anyway, it was a big film. I was interviewed by FM Osaka and FM Tokyo, and here is the fantastic Japanese, there we go, Japanese VHS cover. How can I show them that flare?
Love it.
There's Stacy up there in the elevator. This explosion, we had 10 cameras set up for the explosion where he's driving in the car and sees there's a bomb in it. Now, personally, I would have thrown the bomb out the window, but yeah, he decides to jump out of the car. That's more exciting. And the car is supposed to roll to this place in this lot where we had 10 cameras changed. And I was going to do the Hong Kong thing where you do an explosion 3 or 4 times to show it getting bigger and bigger. Right. And the car rolls about 40 feet short of the spot and blows up. So all these cameras on tripods are trained on this spot where the car is. Fortunately, I was standing next to the dolly, and I said, "Let's get it in one shot. Keep going, keep shooting." And we did. And if you look, that's a really nice sequence because of that. And then, so when we did the car flipping over in the forest, I thought it's just going to be 2 shots. Let's not go overboard on this one, and it works really well.
Awesome.
So I'm sitting in Sidney Tong's office. He's Jackie Chan's producer on his films at that time, '94, and I'm just really having a great time in Hong Kong. Everybody wants to see me. Everybody takes a meeting with me. I had a deal with Danny Lee. Do you know who Danny Lee is? He often plays a cop.
Sounds familiar.
And David Chan was my partner on that one. David Chan is an actor and producer and director. I have to tell you my Directors Guild story, but I'll get to that. But everybody's meeting, could you please sit and wait? Okay, I'll sit and wait. And, you know, all the fan magazines there are all like Tiger Beat or whatever. You know, they're all, you know, like Idols and this.
Yeah.
But there's one prestigious magazine, and I pick it up, and it's got a leather cover, and it's called City Entertainment translated. So it doesn't translate as exciting as it is. But
Yeah.
and I'm flipping through it, and it's all in Chinese. I don't know what's going on. I'm probably looking at it in the wrong direction, aren't I? And then I come to their laser disc picks of the summer. Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, Brian De Palma's Raising Cain, this Academy Award winner, Indochine, or nominated, and Robo Chick. And I learned, here's another valuable lesson. I learned never take your name off anything. You know, if it's bad, everybody will forget about it or get recalled, but you never know. You're going to wind up in Hong Kong, and it's your ticket to meeting everybody and doing everything.
Right. Speaking of Hong Kong, let's talk about your expertise over there in dubbing films into English. How did that come about?
I was, am I dating myself? I was in France in '76 after making Sonic Boom. I brought it over there where for some reason people think I'm important in some places. I don't know why. I just, would you come here with us? Put on a tie. Oh yeah. Okay. And I went to the south of France to these friends' house, and they would go out and do stuff, and you know, and I would just watch TV, and I'd be seeing TV shows that I really normally don't even watch in back home, but it's amazing because I think some of these shots. Remember the old Dracula and those films from Universal? They'd move the American cast out, they'd bring the Spanish cast in, and then they'd shoot that scene, and then they, you know, do. And I thought, well, they must be doing something like that. They must be shooting this scene in French. There's a scene in Ironside, which is a show I never watched, haven't watched since. Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Girl from U.N.C.L.E. had different actors playing Robert Vaughn. It was quite weird in the dubbing, but anyway, he's got his notepad and he's looking at the witness and he says, "Continue." And I thought, wait a minute. And I went up to my room and I looked in the mirror. Continue. Continue. What the hell is he going on here? And I have a date, and it's going well. It's, you know, it was actually with a British girl who was a maid at the. I'm reminiscing to myself. Never mind. And but in the middle of her talking about something, I said, hold on. And I ran up and I got up and I went to the mirror and I went, go on, continue, go on. And I thought, oh my God, oh, that's so clever. He started talking before the actual actors started talking, and they made and the thing, and then I became obsessed and I went to Go Mom where they were doing I was supposed to meet Jacques Tati, but he was sick.
Wow.
And I regret that. It was a friendly thing. It wasn't a professional thing. Somebody said, would you like to meet Jacques Tati? Yeah. We go to GoMot Studios, and so instead they took me. I said, I'd like to see a dubbing session, and I could have sworn they do it very differently. Digressing, let's let's go back to the dubbing in Hong Kong. Cantonese. Whenever I tried to speak Cantonese, they'd always put their hand on my shoulder and say, "You should try Mandarin." Cantonese is 7 tones, Mandarin is 4. I guess they thought I'm better off trying something that's similar, more simpler.
Mm-hmm.
But Cantonese always begins and ends with an ah. Ah, Master Chaos, ah. You know, so I'm talking to you, bingo ah, Master Chaos, ah. And it's always ah this, ah that, and everything. And how do you match the mouth to mouths that are always open? And then you get the teenagers, and they have this kind of slang way of talking. But man, this guy in 1980, and this is how I met Rod Taylor and Bruce Taylor. They had taken an old Rangebusters Western, Bill Oliver, at Laird Studios, where Joel Goldsmith, my friend, when films didn't work, I started working in recording studios and doing, with music. So I can engineer, but I can engineer a 32 track with actual plugs. Now you get your non-linear stuff in your Pro Tools. God, you guys. Okay. You learn something, and what's the point? Okay. Anyway, and he said, "Can you?" I don't know why I get asked these odd questions. He said, "We're thinking of taking an old Western and you dub it. Can you write a funny script for I guess because of the Lampoon stuff." Chris Miller of National Lampoon, who wrote the original stories for Animal House, and he's written some stuff. He took me under his, and I think he's got a script credit in Animal House. He took me under his wing. He said, "Jeff, you're the most brilliant comedy writer I've ever met. I don't think you understand. No one gets your jokes." So it's one of those, odd compliments. Anyway,
right.
And that's sort of like what Elves is like. So we did it. So my friend Bob and I, we said, we don't want to hear the soundtrack. We don't want to hear the soundtrack. And we just looked at this Western, and we put perfectly matching mouths. If you find the eponymous Jeff YouTube channel, there's 2 of them. Only one of them is mine. They're the same name. I don't know how to direct you. I don't know why that happened.
I've got a clip we're going to show right now. Just saying hi to Francis. Welcome. Happy to have you here. All right, here's a clip from the Western, redubbed and rewritten by Jeff Mandel.
I'm afraid it's tradition. A cowboy, his girlfriend, sitting on the front porch, spitting in the sunset. Barbecuing alfalfa, eating roast porky, buckwheat on the grill if you like. All we have left to do is try it out.
Don't nobody go near this one, because if it doesn't work out, I'm going to be coming back.
Oh, honey. Oh, my darling, I love you.
Careful.
Well, I love your scarf, and I love your hat. In fact, I love your whole wardrobe. Sometime, could I wear it?
Well, sure. Do you think you're my size?
Oh, I'm everybody's size.
Well, that's great. So, do we go shopping, or...?
No, silly. Now our souls intermingle for the ages.
Terrific. So what about us?
Don't you understand? Our love must flower from the soil of our desires to become the vegetables of the dinner of our life together.
Well, I thought...
Why don't you listen? She's trying to tell you she wants you to burst like dandelions on a warm summer's day.
I think I have a brain tumor. I can't understand what anyone's saying. Somebody better make sense, or I'm just going to start shooting.
Well, I'm just trying to tell you that I want to make love to you.
Oh, is that all? Well, that's all right. Gee, there's nothing to this stuff. It's a lot easier than I thought. Any of you guys want to give it a shot, too?
You know something? I'm a lonely guy. What can I do?
Well, you know, Crash, there are no easy answers for that. And I know you can only understand the easy one. Say, that girl in Santa Fe,
Nah, she never understood me. Hey, maybe
So that's just a little clip.
Maybe she was a foreigner.
I'm gonna put that clip down in the description. You guys can watch that a little more.
And, and I think you can expand my channel and see other dubbing things. You can see the Chinese dubbing. Did you get to see that, Master C?
I do. I've got some clips to show of that as well. But
one. We were losing time. Let me. So what are we talking about?
Well, the Hong Kong stuff. How did that come about? Why did they?
So the guy that produced the Western moves to Hong Kong to do post-production sound, and he says, "I have a guy that can dub a Hong Kong film and make it match the mouths perfectly."
Right.
And they said no, and he said, "No, yes, I do. I bet you he can do it." And I know, yeah. So it was. So we ran out of money to finish the film on over the weekend. I was wondering what to do, and on Tuesday I said, I guess we're done. We're done for. And on Thursday the phone rings and it's Bill Oliver, and he says, "Can you come to Hong Kong? You have a moment? Can you come to Hong Kong and dub a film?" I said, how much money are you offering? And it was exactly the amount of money we needed to do the post production on. So I'm off to Hong Kong. And now, I think I mentioned I started going to the Kokusai to see Japanese films in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
I also, actually encouraged by my friend Bob, we went to the Singli in 1979 and saw this film, which you know, Mad Monkey Kung Fu.
Yeah, great.
And I thought, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the kind of film I've been waiting for. And we started in Chinatown, and those theaters weren't doing good. We found the Gohua in Monterey Park, and Alhambra, the Garfield, and right near the Ratch 99 market with these bizarre. I found Pocky for the first time. That's Japanese.
Nice.
But and we would go to these. Let me tell the story really fast. And we would go to these movies, and we'd see these movies. I saw Stephen Chow for the first time in God of Gamblers 3.
Wow.
Was that directed? So if somebody could look it up and see if that was directed by Wang Jing. Anyway, I patterned the costumes in my last movie were patterned after some of the costumes in Naked Killer, which was a Hong Kong movie. I loved the Hong Kong movie, the mixing of the light temperatures, and their comedies were so good because they used the film image. You know, they understand what a wide angle lens mean, what a long lens mean. They'll have the guy, Stephen Chow would be looking off. Stephen Chow walks off in one direction at a restaurant, and a girl with good figure is sitting there looking at the menu, and all of a sudden liquid starts dripping down on her menu, and she looks up, and he's up in the tree on the other side looking down her blouse. You know, he left screen left, but he's on screen right, you know, and doing jokes that depend on the camera and not just a funny line. And that's what I was trying to do in Robo Chick, and that's what I was trying to do in all my movies, and who knows. But why did I say that? Oh, so 79. So we're seeing all these Hong Kong movies. So here I am in Hong Kong, and it was just heaven. And I saw Wang Jing on the street in front of the recording studio. And they said, "That's Wang Jing." And I said, "Excuse me, I am a huge fan of yours." And he looked at me, and this is how they were unaware of their fame at this point. In March of 94, they were unaware of that we were watching their films in the United States.
Interesting.
My big claim to fame was I rewrote and did the subtitles to Opium War, the first Chinese Hong Kong co-production, showed at the Directors Guild here and everything. And that's my big, that's I already finished the Hong Kong story. Okay. But I go up to Wang Jing and I say, I'm a big fan of yours. And he says, "No, you must be thinking of Jackie Chan." I said, No, sir. I've seen Naked Killer. I've seen 14 Stephen Chow films. I think you direct or produced 12 of them. And he looked at me and he opened his mouth and a car screeches to a stop at the curb and the door flies open and they yell something at him and he jumps in and he goes away. And I thought, what I say? What happened? And it explained to me he was shooting, not only was he shooting 3 films at the same time, but they were stealing a crash at an intersection. They were stealing the intersection without permits, and they were ready to perform the crash. And so he went away. And that's the atmosphere of Hong Kong, was film school. We'd go out at a bar at night, and somebody would walk in. I say, well, I need 5 people for a so-and-so scene. You know, and okay. And they go out like that. They came up to the guy that was there with me, Steven, we need your black BMW. And he said, what are you using? You're going to crash it? He said, no, we just need to double it. And he said, okay. And he gives them the keys. And movies were being made all the time. Deals were being made 24 hours a day, you know. We didn't have cell phones in '94 as prevalent as there were there. People had 2 and 3 cell phones and everything. And one day they say to me, and this, I'll go quickly, I'm looking at your time. One day they say to me, would you like to meet Jackie Chan? Yeah, it's a good question. I'm always getting these questions. Yeah. So they drive me to Kowloon to the brand new Directors Guild building. It's white cement and cantilevered and weird and everything. And I walk in, it smells new paint, cement floor. Could smell the paint on the walls. There's no furniture. There's no receptionist. I'm met by Peter Chan, who plays the cop in Hard Boiled. Excuse me. Peter Chan, Bell's palsy. Peter Chan plays the cop in Hard Boiled. He's a singer. He was head of the Directors Guild at the time. And he says, oh, yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. Robo chick, right? It's a pleasure to meet you. Come. And we went and we walked down this long hallway with no windows or no other doors, and there's one door, and he opens the door. He says, would you please wait in here? I said, sure. Okay. Now, the concept of face, you say, oh, you don't want to lose face. It's a huge concept in China and Hong Kong and in Taiwan, I guess. Okay. You don't, losing face is a grievous insult. If someone orders you a drink at a bar, you have to drink it. If you go out to eat and they order food, you have to eat it. If you don't, trouble's a brewing.
Oh no.
We were waiting to see somebody. I don't know what I did, but we were waiting to see somebody, and I got a call. They said, the phone's for you. I said, yes. They said, get out of there right now. They're sending people over there right now. You know, like you see in the movies with the sticks, the billy clubs and the stuff. Yeah. You go out the back door. All right. I mean, face, you guys, it's drilled into me. So I go into this room, there's an empty desk and there's a chair, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And I wait for 10 minutes. I'll just make it go fast. 15 minutes. I think, well, I'll go if there's nobody here after 25 minutes. No, I can't go. They're going to lose face. I can't do that. This is Peter Chan, the head of the Directors Guild. Okay, what am I going to do? How long do I have to wait? It's 30 minutes. Okay, what is the Jackie Chan? If he shows up and I'm gone, then then I'm in big trouble. Nobody will meet with me anymore. What am I going to do? Well, thank goodness, after 40 minutes. Peter Chan shows up and says, we're ready for you now. Oh, okay, great. And I don't know if you know that scene. Of course you do, in Spinal Tap, where they're looking for the stage and they go up the stairs. And we do that. We go out of the new building, we cross a bridge, and we go into the old building, and then we go up the stairs and we come to another floor, and we do, where the, I'm just following them. We go back across the bridge, but not all the way, because it goes to this other building. Okay, we go here, we do that. And finally he opens the door and he steps up and he goes in the door and he says, please come in. I said, okay. And I walk in and I'm on a riser and the room is filled with folding chairs, and I'm not exaggerating. Well, I'll try not to exaggerate. I would say there were at least 50 people there, and maybe more. And wow. They're all sitting there, and I what is this? And I'm standing there, and he gets down and he sits sits down next to this old man who's bald. He's got liver spots, and he's wearing these thick glasses, this old craggy man and everything. And I look over, and there's my friend David Chan, who I had to deal with. And he goes, talk, say something. I'm supposed to give us. I mean, what I thought I was meeting Jackie Chan, and I am on the stage, and and they want me to talk. And I look at the old man, and just before I left, I had seen an old Michael Hoy movie. Michael Hoy and his brothers are the equivalent of Jerry Lewis in Hong Kong. He was the equivalent of the Ritz brothers, or maybe the Three Stooges, or maybe a combination of all. And I would never have recognized him had I not seen the movie like 2 nights before I left for Hong Kong. And he was young. It was made, it was made 40, 50 years ago. Like it was in black and white. And I said, well, I assume that you're all directors. I'm here at the Directors Guild, and I'm honored to be in the presence of such esteemed people as Michael Hoy. And what I said was, you have fans in the United States. We love your movies. I go to a different city to see your films, and we have the actors' names, and they're always in English. I could be fans of you. I could be fans of you. I could be fans of you. I don't know who you are because the director's name is always in Chinese. And if you check your posters from March 1994 on, all the directors' names are in English after that. So wow. I had an effect. But what I was told afterwards was that because I had honored Michael Hoy, that I suddenly became Chinese. It was like they didn't expect an American to honor the oldest man in the room first before talking. It's done. If I was Chinese, it'd be expected. It would be giving him face, giving the Directors Guild face. But I didn't know. I didn't know what to say, and I saw this old guy, and I said it. So that's my Hong Kong story. Are we done?
That's great. Just about anybody in the chat, if you guys have a question for Jeff about Elves or whatever, you can drop it in the comments. We're going to wrap it up pretty soon. So send them in. Remember, Jeff will be joining us tomorrow. We're watching Elves with him, 3 p.m. PST. Before I forget, I do want to mention this for my Patreon members. Tomorrow, my review of Gail Palmer's Erotic Adventures of Candy, starring the beautiful Carol Connors, will drop over on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, you will get to see that uncensored review. I do show clips. I do indeed. Let me do this. While the questions get formulated, if anybody has, people might just be waiting for Elves itself. I want to show another one of your Hong Kong, specifically one of your Hong Kong dubbings. What's the best one to show? I've got. I've got.
About girls?
Hold on.
That's the one. No, that's the one.
Okay, let's do this one.
It's not about girls?
Not now.
Okay, great.
I'll get it.
Racing tomorrow, get a head start.
Hi.
Perfect. You look so beautiful. But what's with the book?
I just brought it along.
Oh, okay, if you like.
I have a dream to share.
As I have dreamed of you.
Give it a rest.
Hey, what's he doing here?
Come on, liver boy. I'm wise to you, little scam. You asked my niece here, and you're all by yourself? And nothing was gonna happen?
Well, I'm turning blue.
Uh-huh. I'll see for myself.
Oh, not in there. I was planning to entertain in here.
Is that right? Maybe on a sofa?
Did you say sofa?
That's right. So far, so good. Do you see that?
Wow, whose birthday?
There's no birthday.
Why are there candles?
Oh, jeez.
Must be someone's birthday. You want to blow him out? Happy birthday.
Do you see what we're dealing with? She's been like this her whole life. I always have to watch her.
But why?
Because of boys like you and what you're doing.
Uncle, you're all wrong. Pookie's not like that. He just said he wants to show me a good time.
I meant a party.
I'm not gonna fall for that. Got a band?
There's no band.
Got hors d'oeuvres?
I forgot.
I don't believe it.
All right, fine.
So, am I wrong in saying that you actually had no idea what was actually happening in the movie? You just sort of made it up?
We didn't know what the movie was about. I mean, it was obvious from looking at it that they were having some kind of race on the Great Wall of China, and it was something to do with a panda. But other than that, we didn't know. We made them that they were trying to sell their nonstick cookware to the public, and the race would be a good publicity event.
Amazing.
So that's all. This is how much time we got. 2 minutes. I was in Borders. Remember Borders bookstore?
Sure.
And I say, I wonder if my video premieres, Video Hound. I wonder if my film is in here, Elves. And I can't read it in this light, so never mind. But I read it, and it says the sick sexual content and the incest and the naked woman being drowned in the bathtub make the ratings problematic. And I just went wide and I blanched. And I thought, is that my movie? Oh yeah, that's my movie. What did I think my movie was? That's I wonder to this day. I'm not sure. I did those elements just. I thought I'd read the wrong review at the time. Just strange. No,
funny. Show us the standees back there. The elves and the.
We've got elves. We've got Robo Chick.
Oh, that's wow! It's like full size. That's crazy.
Yeah, she's full size. She's real size. And I have turnaround over here, but I'm blocking it. I have Firehead over there.
Oh, right.
And my office is kind of, I said that already. Yeah. Christopher Plummer, Martin Landau. I wrote that for AIP. That's how I got what's going on here. I've got, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, you still see everything is working.
Yes. Well, Jeff, I let's call it a night. But thank you so much for joining me on this and talking about. I mean, we could probably talk for another 4 hours. There's so much. Yeah, we didn't touch on Firehead and things like that. But another night. Tomorrow for sure. 100%. All elves. And you'll share. Everybody watching. We'll try to keep it tight, but we'll watch the movie and then we'll take pauses to ask Jeff questions.
I'll keep quiet. I'll only answer your questions so you're not disturbed by the movie. And I thank everybody for watching today, and I appreciate your comments. Of course, I'm not reading the ones that I didn't see, but I'll go back and look at those. So
there you go, my friends. Thank you for watching. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. We'll do it again. HOLLYWEIRD will return, and let's watch live tomorrow.
Thank you, Master.
My pleasure, Jeff. We'll catch you on the flip side. Whoa. I'm getting kind of tired here. My throat's going out on me, so it is time to call it a day. My friends watching at home, remember this: I love you. As a matter of fact, I love you just the way you are. We will see you again soon. Jeff and I will return. I hope you'll be here. And we got one last comment. Maroon says, thanks. Look forward to it. Awesome. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow. But for now, we remain to be continued.